And then that became very empowering for other things, right? That I want to take on. And so, 50, which is, to me, that's my regret right here, is that it took so freaking long, 50. And so I have 4 daughters and my sons, right? Anybody really, my advice would be, do what you need to do now. Don't wait. Of course, I'm of the belief that, I just turned 60 a couple months ago, right? But I just think, I'm still going, man. I don't feel 60 in my head. That used to sound like, oh my gosh, that's so old. Age is a number and it's really in your head. So you get to decide, are you living or are you hanging it up?
We have I Am Every Woman Terri, who is the mother of 8 children and who found empowerment along her journey at the age of 50. This story truly lets us know that at any moment we can choose to change and empower our lives. Stay tuned for an exciting story on Unapologetically Woman. Welcome to Unapologetically Woman, the podcast where women come together to share their unfiltered experiences navigating womanhood. Join us as we dive into candid conversations about periods, perimenopause, postpartum bleeding, miscarriages, and more. This is a safe space where we embrace the raw, real, and often unspoken aspects of being a woman. Get ready to be empowered, inspired, and heard. This is Unapologetically Woman. Welcome back, everybody, to Unapologetically Woman. We are here with Terri, who is a multifaceted entrepreneur, energetic communicator, and inspiring coach in the health, wellness, and medical communities. With a knack for creating, Terri has been the driving force behind multiple business ventures, including co-founding Medical Transformation Center with her husband, Dr. Carl Paige. Miss I Am Every Woman, welcome to the show, Miss Terri.
Thank you. I Am Every Woman. I haven't heard that one yet.
You are, though. You are. You guys, Terri, okay. She gave me a little brief information about this, okay. She says she has had 6 kids in 7 years. Okay, you guys. That is power right there. Okay, having a big family like that, being a mom of a big family like that, it comes with a lot of challenges. You're dealing with 6 different types of beings, and actually now she falls out. Oh, she's got 8 in total, but she's had 6 in the 7 years. So what we're actually going to start with on Terri's journey is her first pregnancy, and we're going to start during that time. So Terri, I know you said that you were 15 at the time of your first pregnancy, and I would like for you to kind of guide the audience through the experience. Like, 1, when did you find out you were pregnant? And 2, how did you go about that? And also 3, if you can just let us know what was the times, what was the decade in which this happened, so we can understand how society, was moving at that time.
Sure. Well, I was very young. I was actually 11 when I started my period. So I had been, fertile for several years, and I had a boyfriend, and I, those things can be incremental, right? They can be incremental. And so I was pregnant at 15. I found out actually about a month before my 16th birthday. At the time we were broken up, we were taking time away from each other, that I found out I was pregnant. And so, of course, that was terrifying. And my parents had recently divorced, and we were living with my dad. There were 5 kids in my family. We were living with my dad. He was raising us. And, I just remember being terrified to tell him, because, I was the smart kid. I was going to go to college and do great things, and all of that, right? And I'm very much a middle child. I've got to be perfect. Oh my gosh, I'm going to disappoint somebody. That's me to this day. Kind of, I struggle with that, right? At least there's awareness now. But I want everybody to be happy. I'm the peacemaker. I'm an Aquarius too, right? So, I did, kind of set a meeting with my dad to tell him. And it was interesting. My dad was from the Philippines. He was from the Philippines, and he looked at me and he goes, we're not going to let somebody else raise our baby, meaning, you're not going to put the baby up for adoption. For us, abortion was not, it wasn't an option. And then, but he said, but you're going to have this baby, you're going to go to college, and you're going to get your degree because you need to be able to stand on your own 2 feet. Which, and to me, that just sounded terrifying because I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to do that? Right? How am I going to do that? That's so scary. And I was a young, in school. So I was, one of the younger students. So I had my son in August in between my junior and senior years of high school. And, I remember going to the principal's office to tell him after, it was a small town, I was the salutatorian in my class, I was that kid, right? And I just remember going and talking to the principal when school started for my senior year and saying, I'm going to need to leave, probably around 2:00 each day because the sitter that I have is going to have, so, and he was just like, okay, and this was the 70s, right? So actually it was literally, I was pregnant in 1979. I had our son in 1980. And so it was the turn of the decade. And so it was 1980. And, again, it was a small town, there was, of course, there were some people who were, I'm going to say the haters, right? But, I think just for me, there were a lot of folks that were very supportive, which I'll always be grateful for, because I think they thought, you know what, I'm surmising this, but just, this is a blip in the road, but this kid needs a chance. And, my boyfriend at the time, like I said, we were broken up and we kind of, that was a little dicey time during then. He was a year ahead of me in school. So, which means he graduated and was set to go to college, when I had the baby. And, we did start actually to talk again, in the summer when I was getting ready to deliver and so forth. And we're kind of back together, but he did go to college that first year of, our son's life. So he left and went about 3 hours away. So, I had our son, was at home at my, at my family home. And, so did the things, right? Went to high school, got up in the middle of the night, fed the baby, did all of that. And, when I look back on that now, I think, gosh, how did we do that? You're just, and it's so many women, I think, we just move through. I got to get it done. I got to keep going. And of course, nothing's free, right? That ultimately will kind of hit us. And, later on, it does hit me, right? But, you just keep moving. And then I graduated from high school. At that point, my boyfriend and I had gotten back together. And so I was set to go. I went to state university in my state. And so my son and I moved to, the college town about 3 hours away, got a little crummy apartment. In retrospect, I realized, man, why did I live there? Was that even safe? But my dad was helping us because it was worth his investment to help. And I worked part-time and did stuff, but it was worth his investment to do this now, which again, I'm forever grateful for. Because he knew long-term, it would be the best thing for me, and so, thinking back, like it was 4-lane roads. I wasn't used to driving on 4-lane roads, and having that little boy and navigating daycare and college schedule and freshman year and, going and setting up my own utilities. Back then you couldn't do everything online. You had to go down to the phone company, get a real phone, take it back, all of those things that now today, especially, are so easy online, right? It was all physical getting and doing and so forth. I think back on that and I go, how the heck did that happen? But we went to, my husband and I ended up getting married So he is my current husband. We actually got married. So I turned 18, my second semester freshman in college, and we got married 2 weeks later, and then just went, right back to school. We got married on a weekend and went right back to school. And it was a whirlwind. So it was always, after I had our son, it was more focused on, okay, got to hit this milestone, got to get this done. And when I went to college and I did what I was good at, because I knew I needed to get a job, because my husband actually had already decided he was going to medical school. So somebody was going to need to work to do that, right? Somebody was going to need to work while he went to medical school. So I did what I was good at, and I was good at accounting. I don't know why. I'm just good at math. I can look at numbers and tell you they're wrong or whatever. So that's what I did so that I could get a job as quickly as I could. Was it my passion? No. But I did it.
Okay, wow. There are so many things I feel come up with that experience, especially, when you're saying, you're going to school and you're having like all these financials that come up that you didn't really think about, like having to deal with, when you were like maybe home. And now it's like, okay, now I'm not home anymore. Now I need to go down and do this and do this and do this while also caring for this newborn. And what I would like to know actually a little bit more of is your postpartum experience, like with your body. So yeah, you have all these different things that you still need to do, but there's like, how did you deal with the postpartum bleeding? For example, did you know about the postpartum bleeding? What was it like for your body, after giving birth and at that age?
Yeah. Well, the birth experience was kind of traumatic for me.
Oh,
that was the piece that I really maybe wasn't as prepared for, right? And just the labor and the just during that time, and then the spinal, they gave me a spinal. Again, it was a different time. It was a very different time. And I had a very old school OBGYN. And so it was just kind of like, you got an enema then. You went into the hospital, and the first thing they did was give you an enema, which, I mean, imagine that, right? Imagine an enema while you're trying to have contractions. And yeah, I mean, it was a very different experience in 1980 than it is today. And then just the forced spinal. Okay, well, we're giving you a spinal because I need you to be still, or, whatever. So, that was kind of traumatic already. And then, of course, the knowledge emotionally that literally, I mean, it was August 14th. So emotionally knowing that, literally within the week of having this baby, my partner was going to leave. Just from an emotional standpoint, so from a body standpoint, yes, the bleeding, the constipation, that was so surprising to me. And I remember my now sister-in-law coming over to the house kind of like, I don't know, a week in, because I was so constipated. She was in nursing school. So she came over and gave me an enema, because I was so constipated. And I think, the episiotomy, the tears, I was so afraid. I think a lot of times, postpartum, especially for a vaginal birth, there's a fear of, having a bowel movement, because what if you rip? What if, already that experience, you've already got stitches, you're sore and so forth. So that constipation was profound. And then, too, I didn't choose to nurse. So then there was the binding of my breasts and the milk coming in, and, all of that from just a physicality standpoint. So there was a lot of emotion, obviously, right? You drop your hormones right after you have a baby. I had the, emotional distress of just the situation that I was in. And then the physical components too, which, fortunately I was young, which makes you technically more resilient, right? But still, just the fear and the unknown, and then the experience of the constipation especially was big.
And I like how you brought that up about the emotional tear that has, because I think, sometimes we can, we want to be so strong, but having someone there, like you said, like you knew your partner was leaving after having this newborn baby, and I think sometimes as a society, it's always just placed on the woman to take care of the child, it's just like, it's her responsibility, and it's like, that does have an emotional tear that is terrifying, and it kind of brings me back to when you said when you found out you were pregnant, you were terrified. I'm like, oh wow, like you are going through a lot of terrifying like situations, and that, I know women, who are listening to this, we're all about being independent and everything like that, but it does behoove you to have a partner, and not just any partner, a supportive partner, you don't want to be with a partner who's like, I'm gonna just say it, a deadbeat, you don't want that either, because now you're taking care of a baby and a man baby, like, so it's definitely not fair to women to have to go through that. But I'm just thinking about your story in general, like you have this baby and now also, you're pursuing something to be able to take care of, your family, and it's like, yeah, it wasn't really my passion, and I feel like a lot of women, they do sacrifice that. They do sacrifice like their passion in order to do what they need to do and not necessarily what they want to do that way, yeah. And that's become like a theme in our life. And it's like, we as women, should be able to do what we want to do, should be able to have that career where we're passionate about and have a baby and have a love. We can have it all. Like, like we should be able to have it all. And your story is it's also inspiring too. It's like, even though you were young, and I was that middle child too, and I had that pressure too of being like the one to go to college, and I was the smart one, and I was just, I kind of that stigma that's placed on us as children to live up to other people's expectations kind of thing, so you have that pressure as well. I'm just like, dude, you were stronger than you knew.
Upon reflection, I realized that I used to lie all the time about my age because, well, of course, right, I was the youngest mom in the room when my son went to school, or even in college, just, oh, you've got a baby? Well, how old are you? I would lie. I would add at least 2 years to my age because I just, again, it's that whole, I don't know, people pleasing thing, right? Oh God, what will they think of me if they know that I was pregnant when I was 15? So I mean, literally, I lied about my age probably until I was well into my 40s, maybe 50, which I just turned 60 a couple months ago. So it took a long time to move past that and understand, yeah, that was a situation that wasn't, of course, ideal, right? However, we made it. And, that says we're a fucking badass, I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Yeah.
I mean, and it took a long time to figure that piece out and create empowerment from that as opposed to shame.
Wow, that is absolutely beautiful. You know what we're going to do? We are going to go into a quick commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about Terri's story, but on the empowering side. How did she switch and start getting into that empowering state where she's like, I'm not ashamed anymore. This is what I've done. I am every woman. Hear me roar. So stay tuned. We are proud to announce that the Menstrual Menu ebook is here. So make sure you grab that below. In this ebook, it is one of the first ebooks to actually correlate foods that correlate with our cycles as women, going through the follicular, going over your luteal, your ovulatory, and your menstruation phase, and all the nutrients that we can need and consume from foods to help support us naturally, helping alleviate PMS symptoms, helping with boosting your energy levels, helping with mood swings, and helping with hormonal balance as women as we go through these different phases. It includes recipes that is for all dietary needs, for those who eat meat to vegetarian to vegans. It includes 10 recipes of each category in each of the phases. So make sure you grab that ebook below and start optimizing your health as a woman today. Welcome to Unapologetically Woman, the podcast where we dive into all things related to women's health, empowerment, and success. I'm Miss Tanya, a dedicated life coach using menstrual cycle synergy to help women executives, women entrepreneurs, and corporations, helping them establish better policies to accommodate women. If you are enjoying today's episode and want to stay updated with our latest content, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a new video. Share this video with a woman who would benefit from our discussions. We're always looking to grow our community and empower more women. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below sharing the insights you gained from today's episode. And don't forget to like this video to show your support. Thank you for being part of our community. Subscribe now, click the notification bell, leave a comment, like, share, and join us on this empowering journey. Stay tuned for more empowering conversations on Unapologetically Woman. Welcome back, everybody, to Unapologetically Woman. So we heard like the first half of Terris' story, and now we are going to get into the empowering part of Terris' story, where she starts to realize like that shame that she was carrying before is no longer serving her. So Terri, you touched on this a bit about changing that shame to empowerment. And, it's always something that triggers that moment. Something happens like a situation, or you could just be washing the dishes and then just a thought will pop up in your mind. So what was it for you, and what age were you when it finally clicked for you?
Well, I had significant, I'd had a lot of health challenges throughout my life that came to a head when I was in my early 40s. Made significant changes, which, is really the essence of the business that I have now. But as part of that process, one of the things that I had decided to do was become a certified lifestyle coach, to really work with people in a way that could be empowering for them on their health and making decisions regarding their health to have their best health span. And when I was in the middle of that certification, I had done all the science modules. I'd done the 4 science modules, but there was one module that was on actual coaching and coaching technique in order to work with, with the folks that I was going to be helping. So I was at that coaching module that long weekend, and I sat in the front, and I was just so enthralled with this idea because I never really, I wasn't familiar with the coaching model. I was familiar with therapy, which I had spent many years working on other issues I had with abandonment and so forth. In therapy, even had a stint of years where I was on medication, for depression. I was familiar with therapy. I was familiar with, consulting, which is kind of that, here's what you got to do, right? Let me tell you. But I wasn't familiar with coaching, where you have this working with a coach really towards empowering me to make changes, right? Through powerful questions and self-discovery, assuming that I had everything I needed inside of me, right? Because, I've spent a lot of years thinking, oh, I'm defective. Something's wrong with me. What didn't I do enough of? Which is something that I think a lot of women struggle with, is I'm not enough. If I would have just done, right, X, Y, Z, it would have been better enough. And so, the woman who now has become a dear friend, she was starting some other business ventures and things like that. But she had said, I don't do any personal coaching clients anymore. During the class, she said that I really am focused on training other coaches now, right? So I go up to her afterwards and I go, I know you said you weren't going to take any other clients on. However, would you consider coaching me? Because I am ready. There are things that hold me back. I'm getting ready to turn 50. I was 49. I'm getting ready. It was like 2 months before my 50th birthday. I'm getting ready to turn 50, and I realize there are things that just hold me back that I have not been able to navigate through. And I think that working with a coach could help me would you consider that? And she said, well, let me think about it, da, 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 right? So I went back from that weekend and my husband and I were talking about it. And, I said, and it, of course that's an investment, right? To work with a coach.
Right.
And so I said, for my 50th birthday, I would love to have a coaching package. And so, he said, okay, all right, I'll give you that for your 50th birthday, right? That can be your present. So I call my friend Barbara back up now, my now friend Barbara. I said, my husband said he would give you to me for my 50th birthday. Have you decided yet that you're going to coach me? We laugh about that now, but she said, okay, all right, I'll take you on. And so I started that program with her. And that was actually that spot where, it led to such awareness, right? Such awareness and a different perspective. It expanded my worldview. And it started to help me realize, what? Your story is not one of, I gotta hide that, make it look like everything was perfect, make it look like I was a married college graduate when I had my first child. I don't need that. That's not the story. And there is truth and there's empowerment from the truth, right? And maybe, perhaps, the fact that I have gone through that and we made it, again, not perfectly, of course, right? There's always fallout from a lot of things, but that we made it, we overcame, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? That means that we are winners, or that, that I make the badass, man,
Yeah.
And then that became very empowering for other things, right? That I want to take on. And so, 50, which is, to me, that's my regret right here, is that it took so freaking long, 50. And so I have 4 daughters and my sons, right? Anybody really, my advice would be, do what you need to do now. Don't wait. Of course, I'm of the belief that, I just turned 60 a couple months ago, right? But I just think, I'm still going, man. I don't feel 60 in my head. That used to sound like, oh my gosh, that's so old. Age is a number and it's really in your head. So you get to decide, are you living or are you hanging it up? And so I'm grateful for that. But I would encourage anybody who's going through, whatever, we all have stuff that we're going through, don't wait. Don't wait till you're 50.
I think that's beautiful how you didn't let that age stop you. Earlier, you guys, Terri and I were like kind of talking. I gave her an example about my dad. Okay, you guys don't laugh at this, but I was telling her, I'm still trying to get my dad to get on Zelle. Okay, like he's still doing Western Union, y'all. Okay, and some of y'all probably never even heard of Western Union. Like you have no idea what I'm talking about. They do still exist. Okay, and he will not, because his excuse is, I'm too old to learn. And that could have easily stopped you on your journey if you figured, hey, I'm too old to learn. But through your story, like, women everywhere, it's like it's never a bad time, like, to change. At any point you can change. And when it comes to like that, I guess it's like have you read the book The Power of Now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. He talks about like psychological time and clock time, right? And I think sometimes we get attached to our age through psychological time. Our ego kind of gets in the way, like, oh, I can't do this anymore. And we sell ourselves short.
Yeah. Just asking it, is this serving me? Is this how I want the story to end? And maybe that was part of it, again, you think, oh gosh, I'm turning 50. How did that happen? Right. And just going, wait a minute, am I done? Do I have other things I want to do? Am I living my best life? And the answer was no.
And I think it's great. I think it's awesome that, like you were one, I don't find it as a coincidence that coaching was involved in your course, and that was the piece that it was like, oh my gosh, like this is what I'm looking for, because technically you were already working on yourself, because, you know, you said you were going through therapy. So it's like you were already putting out that you want things to change, you know, and then I feel like when we are ready, you know, just in general to receive it, it comes to us, you know, because, you know, sometimes we can want things, but we're not mentally ready to receive it. You know, we would probably reject it or have resistance against it. And it's like when you come from a different headspace, you are able to grow more, like you are. And then, like you said, you saw other aspects of your life be improved.
Yeah. Well, you know, what's funny is, you know, we coached together. So that stint, you know, now I continue to work with Barbara on a lot of different areas now, even to this day, right? But that stint was like 18 months. And when we kind of completed, I decided actually to go through her training school to become a certified professional performance coach. And it was funny because it really wasn't that I had the intention to go out and, you know, hang that shingle and, you know, work with people in that way. But it was really actually the reason I did that. And it was intense. It was a year program. It was very intense. The reason I did it is because I wanted to continue to do the work in a deeper way. And, you know, in her program, you actually go through, like, it's like a boot. I mean, it's really like a boot camp. And what was funny, no disrespect to gentlemen, okay, on this one, okay, but we started out, it was a kind of a small group, and you know, there were in-person weekends, and then we had work to do throughout, you know, until we met again, and group work and all kinds of, you know, it was an very intensive program. I think we started out with like 7 people in the program in this particular class. Okay. 5 men, 2 women. At the end of it, the last 2 standing were the women.
Wow.
And I think really, you know, it was because when we would get to those spots where, you know what I'm talking about, you're like pushing against yourself and really trying to have a breakthrough. Because again, we were going through these exercises and this development and this challenging our worldviews and, you know, writing out our future visions and, you know, going back, you know, all the things, right? All the things that you would do. You'd see one drop off. You'd see another one drop off out of the program, another one drop off out of the program. And at the end, it was just me and another badass woman who were still left standing. I'm like, yeah. Wow. Empowering because we made it, you know, we made it, you know, and I remember having that feeling. There was this period of time where I wanted to run marathons, and just again, that, and I wasn't even a runner, right? But just, you know, when you do that and you think, I pushed against myself and I won, you know, that's empowering, you know, and you can build on that success. And I think that was the problem, is that I had never realized that until about 50 about my teenage experience. I never realized that piece. I you know, I totally got it about the marathon or whatever else, something maybe I had done, but I never really took that and thought, wow, that should empower me as opposed to make me want to be ashamed and hide it over here. You know, and maybe that story helps somebody else, right?
Yes, absolutely. And wow, I absolutely appreciate your story. And we are going to actually, this is our time up with Terri, you guys. But if anything, make sure you take away this piece that has been given to you. You know, I feel like your story is truly like a testament. Not only can you make it through anything that you are going through right now, but it's never too late for you to do what you want. You know, it's never too late for you to decide, hey, let me do this marathon. It doesn't matter your age. They have different age groups in marathons, you know, like it's never too late. And I think once we get rid of that limitation of our mind, we see like the abundance around us. And it's like, oh, there's an opportunity right in front of me. Like this was here the whole time, you know, like, yeah. So I think that's great. Terri, you know, you guys, if you're listening to this on iTunes, make sure you go down in the description and support Terri. Make sure you look at their clinic that they have, you know, and also if you're watching this on YouTube, show your love and support to Terri with her links down below. Thank you so much, Terri, for joining us.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us today. Learn more about our guest in the description below. Interested in being a guest on our show? Complete the form in the description. Leave a comment below to share your thoughts on today's episode and be entered into our surprise monthly giveaway. For women looking for a natural way to relieve menstrual cramps, try live resin gummies to ease menstrual cramps. The link is available in the description. Thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more empowering content. This is Unapologetically Woman.